Hey guys, Cryptculture here. I'm bored. None of those stupid hobbies had any staying power. What I need is a challenge, something I can put a lot of work into while still having fun. I said something fun. When one person dislikes something, it can sometimes influence others to dislike it as well. Sprocket. One of the most infamous Skylanders in the series, and not for a great reason. She is almost universally considered one of the worst Skylanders in a roster with nearly 200 characters. Funnily enough, being hated by the masses was her call to fame. Not only did she get a repose in Swap Force, but she also appeared in Skylanders Academy, and she had a pretty big role in that show too. Did they think we liked her? Well, today's basically goes straight to her, mainly so that we can see what all the fuss is about. I don't think I'm ready for this. I'm just gonna hold off until at least episode 167. This is happening way too fast. This will be my biggest challenge yet. The ultimate test of my Skylanders abilities. Can I fix one of the most hated Skylanders in the history of the franchise? With no further ado, let's master our Sprocket skills. Maybe, I don't know. This could all be a total disaster, we'll have to wait and see. From my experience, the best way to get good at a Skylander is to understand their morals, their values, and life goals. So what do we know about Sprocket? Well, she's a mechanic, and she has a gold face. That's a good start. Well, Sprocket is apparently a goldling, and goldlings are rich, but she didn't enjoy the upper class life and preferred helping out in her uncle's workshop, which is where she learned everything she knows today. So is her uncle rich too? Is he rich because of his work as a mechanic, or is he in some sort of lower class of goldling? I would play an entire game dedicated to the lore of the Goldling Society. Well, as long as I don't have to play as Sprocket. So I think we can all agree that Sprocket is enjoying her life. Well, I don't think anyone's going to believe what happens next. Chaos kidnaps her uncle. Because why not? When Sprocket finds out about this, she builds herself a battlesuit? Where is this battlesuit? I don't see it. Well, she ventures out to find her uncle, leaving her life of luxury behind. From that day forth, she dedicated herself to fighting the forces of evil, while never losing hope that she would be reunited with her uncle. The end. She never finds her uncle? Why are all these backstories so damn depressing? On that note, let's move on to our moveset. Well, I can't say we're off to a great start with this freaking wrench. No beating around the bush here, this move has absolutely nothing that you want for a primary attack. It's slow, it's short ranged, and it doesn't have any knockback, making it terrible for one-on-one fights. You might be wondering, what about the combo attack? Well, that's also very slow, and even worse, if you get hit while you're trying to do it, you have to start over again. If you do manage to land the combo, it is pretty strong and it pushes enemies back quite a bit. And if that seems just a little bit too good to be true for Sprocket, well, you're right, because you're also left vulnerable after the combo as well. Well, I'll admit it's not looking great, but... Actually, never mind, that's all I have to say. Hey everybody, I was so disappointed with Sprocket's range attack that I decided to buy one and see what the real thing's capable of. This is a crab apple, the common apple's less tasty cousin. Let's put out its misery. As you can see, it's a very capable weapon. You have no excuses, Sprocket. Moving on to the secondary move, Sprocket creates a turret which shoots at enemies by itself. The turret can be destroyed by enemies, and it also blows itself up after a certain amount of time. Should have spent more time in your uncle's workshop, I guess. And while the damage itself might not look great, the firing speed is speedy. But, heads up, there'll be a lot of buts in this video. Sprocket takes an eternity to build the turret, making it near impossible to avoid damage. You can't just throw out this move in the middle of a fight. You need to know exactly where and when to use it, and even then you'll probably still get hit. On the plus side, the durability of the turret really surprised me. I saw it get into 1v1s with enemies and win nearly every time. And similar to Slam Bam's ice prisons, enemies will get distracted by the turret. And that's where our old friend the wrench comes back into play. Now while they focus on destroying the turret, you can sink in all that juicy damage. Oh yeah, and if you're playing Skylanders Giants, forget everything I just said. When it seemed as if every older Skylander had been nerfed in Imaginators, Sprocket looks like a god in this game compared to our measly peasant Giants version. In Giants, you'll be lucky to have your turret survive 3 hits from a standard enemy. They are truly pathetic and barely worth putting down most of the time. So you may be wondering, how do you play as Sprocket in Giants then? You don't. And guess what? We're not even done yet, because if you press the secondary button when you're right behind a turret, you jump into it, allowing you to control and shoot it. So you're telling me we can control the self-automating turret? Why? Why on earth would you do the turret's job for it when you could be out there attacking enemies by yourself? It just doesn't make any sense. The only possible benefit I can see in this ability is that you get a bit of extra range. But you also can't avoid attacks, and Sprocket takes years to jump out of the turret. And when you jump out of the turret, it instantly breaks. Jesus Christ. Well, at least it didn't take up an upgrade slot. Speaking of which, our first upgrade increases the damage and health of the turret. I had already gotten this upgrade when I got this Giants gameplay. Imagine how terrible the turrets were to begin with. As you would expect, this upgrade is very important for the turrets, and they're definitely on their way to becoming worth using. Okay, it all lies on this. Here's our third attack, which allows Sprocket to throw out a mine which explodes when near an enemy. Wow, okay, it's actually pretty decent. The mines are a pretty important asset for us, mainly because of the damage radius and the stun. Believe me when I say that these mines are the only thing that will save you against big crowds. Similar to Popthorn's explosive feces, Sprocket's able to throw out the mines without slowing down. And this means you can chuck these bad boys out while you're being chased by enemies. Oh yeah, by the way, that's going to happen quite a lot. These mines really do work well with Sprocket's playstyle, because if you use them properly, they can just buy you enough time to build your turret without being hit. And that is a pretty big deal. Also, you can have 5 of these mines planted at a time, which again is very effective for crowd control. This is definitely Sprocket's best move so far, and it's the only thing Sprocket can do quickly and safely, which I am not going to turn down. The next upgrade is another deal breaker, because now we can have 2 turrets up at once. And by that I do not mean that you can build 2 at the same time, but that would have actually been really cool. Building both of these turrets safely in the middle of a fight is no easy task, but if you do manage to get 2 of them firing at the same time, the damage output is insane. And this upgrade gives us a spicy new strategy. Now if you manage to get 1 turret ready, you can build a second turret while the enemies are distracted, and in most cases you can repeat this process over and over again. If you really are willing to put in the work to get good at Sprocket, well, first of all, what are you doing with your life? But second, this is a very good habit to get into. And our last upgrade before the split paths gives us the tank. Whether it's actually good or not, this is pretty damn cool. Completely ditching that terrible turret controlling ability, now when you hop in it transforms into a tank which can blast big projectiles at enemies. Oh yeah, and you can actually move now. Firing pushes enemies back quite a bit, and that's very helpful because if an enemy reaches you, there is no way in hell you're avoiding it. Yeah, I said it could move, didn't say it wasn't slow. Another glaring issue is that you can't jump in the tank, which makes attacks harder to dodge, and actually makes some attacks impossible to dodge. Now if you're gonna argue that Sprocket came out in Giants and Giants didn't have jumping, let's remember that Sprocket was re-released in Swap Force, and they just couldn't be bothered changing it anyway. Oh yeah, on the topic of Swap Force, I also tried out Sprocket in that game, and she is also just as bad in that game as she is in Giants. Anyways, the tank is certainly risky, but if you can keep your distance from enemies, it can really pay off. Before we head into the upgrade paths, let's take a look at what we have so far. And from what we do have so far, Sprocket might not seem too bad. I mean, especially after those last couple of upgrades. And yes, there is a decent bit of strategy behind her moveset, which I quite enjoy. But the problem is, you can't just play Sprocket and have fun. You have to be concentrating fully and using all of her tactics if you want to survive. And even then, she's still not very good. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty tiresome. But is she playable so far? Well, I guess so. I don't think a good upgrade path has ever been as important as it is today. So yeah, we're we're going to be looking at them. Firstly, the Operator path, which focuses on the primary and tertiary attacks. The first upgrade on this path is one of the most generic upgrades in the entire series. It's the new combos. Now, as we've seen with some other Skylanders, these upgrades aren't necessarily bad. In fact, they can be really helpful since it allows you to tackle different scenarios in different ways. But Sprockets... Let's start off with the secondary button combo. What am I meant to do with this? Sprocket creates a spark that sparks in front of her. I really don't know what's going on. The only redeeming quality in this combo is its knockback, which is much stronger than her other attacks. So if you're near a ledge, go nuts. But damage wise, it's underwhelming. The basic combo still does more damage. And surprise surprise, it leaves Sprocket vulnerable. What's this combo even called anyway? Power Surge. Great, even the name is generic. Okay, we still have one more. Here we have the Mines Aplenty combo. Well, bonus points for the name being kind of interesting. This combo is also pretty situational, but it is far more unique than the other one. Instead of attacking, she throws out 5 mines in a circle all around her. This works especially well when you're being approached from all directions, but it's also a pretty quick way to get 5 mines down, so yeah, it's pretty good. Although I don't think this combo exactly carries the upgrade. This is a pretty okay one. The next upgrade is simple, but for a character like Sprocket, it's pretty vital. Her range attacks now do more damage. The range itself also looks more advanced now, which is a cool touch. Well, that's all I have to say about this one, so moving on to the final upgrade for the Operator path, Sprocket can now throw 3 mines at once. I've not been subtle about it. The mines are Sprocket's saving grace, and timesing that by 3 is an instant win. Although the maximum amount of mines still stays at 5, which is... it's just painfully irritating. Also, this upgrade leaves the Mines Aplenty combo feeling kinda useless, so that's another heavy blow for the Operator path. I won't lie though, this final upgrade almost makes up for it because it's incredibly helpful. Well, the Operator path may be pretty simple, but you can't really say it's bad. The increased wrench damage makes a huge difference, and the main upgrade speaks for itself. I didn't expect a whole lot from this path considering it completely ignores Sprocket's signature ability, but hey, it at least tried. Next up we have the Gearhead path, which focuses on all the turret related business. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what they do with this path because the tank and the turrets have a lot of potential. For the first upgrade, if you use the third attack while in the tank, you drop a little mine behind you. It's actually kinda silly. This is a pretty fine upgrade. It's helpful if you're being chased, but you can also send them out whenever you feel like it and they'll probably damage something eventually. I was hoping for something a little bit more useful, but whatever, it's fine. I'm fine, Sprocket's fine. The middle upgrade buffs the tank and turret projectiles to explode on contact, dealing even more damage. Sadly, the explosion doesn't damage other enemies, which I feel is a missed opportunity, but this upgrade is huge for the turrets and vital for the tank. I mean, the whole idea of the tank is to sacrifice mobility for power, and this upgrade makes this much more effective. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the tank has a time limit. I kinda forgot this existed because of how long it is. I don't think there was ever even a point where the time ran out, because you'll be hopping in and out of them all the time. So it's not a huge deal. Still, just thought I'd let you know, because I'm a nice guy. And the last upgrade also makes things explode. This must be Sprocket's Pyromaniac phase. We've all been there. Now when you jump out of the tank, it blows up, along with the turrets once they've been damaged enough. This upgrade is pretty fun, and it's also pretty good. It deals a really big chunk of damage and knocks all nearby enemies away. This works perfectly with the turrets because there'll be crowds and crowds of enemies trying to destroy them. And then when that happens, they blow up. The tank version is also pretty useful. It does take longer to blow up than I'd like, but it still gets the job done. This whole path makes the tank and turrets feel so much more valuable. The last upgrade especially is really cool and adds more depth to the moveset. While there was no faster turret building like I hoped, this path has definitely earned my respect. So which path, out of the 2 paths, is the path that you should probably take for Sprocket? Yeah, surprise, it's the Gearhead path. Not only do I think it has better upgrades, but it's also just more fun to mess around with the tank and turrets than being stuck with the freaking wrench. Freaking hate wrenches. As I said before, the more powerful wrench and the free mines are insanely useful, but the extra combos kinda fall flat for me. Well, now if you've picked the gearhead path like good boys and girls, Sprocket is decent. It's Sprocket's core fundamentals that definitely hold her back. Doesn't matter how great the upgrades are because her base moveset is really bad. And I haven't even mentioned how pathetic her health stats are. This kind of character should be way more bulky. Oh, they could have made her a giant. I died, and then I died again, and again, and again. Who knows how many other times after that. The point I'm trying to make is that I failed, guys. Let's face it. I was a fool to think that I could make Sprocket good. As if my skills outweigh the judgment of thousands of Skylanders players. Now's a good time to give up. Or maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't give up. Because maybe life isn't about success. Maybe it's about the passion and effort that you put into something, whether you reach it or not. Maybe whether Sprocket remains a bad Skylander or not, I still made the biggest accomplishment of them all. I had fun along the way. Or maybe I should keep going because I still have 2 more upgrades. Okay. Sprocket's Soul Gem. This needs to be big. She now has the ability to hit her mines with a wrench and send them flying at enemies. This is her Soul Gem? This really doesn't feel like a Soul Gem to me, but it is salvageable. This gives Sprocket a pretty safe ranged attack, and the damage isn't half bad. And I really like how you can hit the mine before it even touches the ground if you swing fast enough. Oh yeah, and she for some reason can't do this in Giants. Oh boy. What can I say, it's a decent upgrade, but it definitely doesn't fix Sprocket as a whole. It is a welcome addition though. And let's not forget about Series 2 Sprocket's Wow Pow. Wow, this Wow Pow actually feels like a Wow Pow. When you're in the tank, if you hold the secondary button, you start charging up this super powerful laser. It does take a while to charge up, but it's Sprocket's most powerful attack by a mile. Also, while the laser is charging, you can move into enemies to damage them and knock them back. It's a pretty small thing, but it can save you from being hit. But the damage still doesn't justify the amount of time it takes up to charge. It's like if Trigger Happy's Destructive Ray of Destruction did like a quarter of the damage, it just wouldn't work. Also, unlike the basic shells, this does not knock enemies back, which leaves you pretty vulnerable. That seems to be a common theme today. It certainly is a cool and flashy move, which is what the Wow Pows really are meant to be, but it just doesn't do much to improve on her. So there we go. What a melancholy end. Whether the final product is usable or not, Sprocket is a very unique Skylander and they haven't really done something like her since. Maybe because they were scared it would be a massive failure again. I just don't see myself picking up Sprocket and playing as her for fun, ever. But I am glad that I've given her some time today. So, is Sprocket good? No. She's gonna get, let's see, a 5.5 out of 10. I think that's fair. And if we gave a score to the Giants version, I think a 2 out of 10 is pretty reasonable. I don't hate her. I don't think many people actually hate her as much as they say. Sometimes it's just fun for a bunch of people to hate the same thing. A moment of silence in dedication to Sprocket being the punching bag of this community. Silence over. Oh wait, I have nothing else to say. Well, I've looked at every move and every upgrade in extreme detail, and I have to say, I've gained some newfound appreciation for Sprocket, but I can totally understand why people don't like her at all. With that done, I have a nut that I have to loosen. No, I can't do it.